Welcome to the inaugural interview of the Gateway House Career Series. We will be interviewing experts in their respective fields and tracing their career paths in an attempt to showcase a variety of potential careers you can have with a background in international relations. Today we have with us a very distinguished diplomat, Ambassador Neelam Deo, who is the co-founder of Gateway House, a think tank at the intersection of foreign policy and business. She has served as the Indian ambassador to Denmark and the Ivory Coast, and also served in Indian embassies in Bangkok, Rome, and Washington, D.C., where she liaised with the US Congress on strategic issues. In the course of her career, she was Joint Secretary for Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Myanmar, and the Maldives, and has also worked on the Middle East and North Africa desk. If this isn't impressive enough, she also holds a master's degree from the Delhi School of Economics. Welcome, Ambassador Deo. So, how do you look back on your career today? Did you find it fulfilling? Did it turn out the way you had envisioned it?
Well, first of all, of course, thank you for all the nice things you said about me. Um, uh, when I joined the Indian Foreign Service, I actually did not have a very good idea of how it would turn out. So it's difficult for me to say whether it matched up to my preconceptions, but I can say emphatically that it was a wonderful career. And from the number of countries and places and different assignments that you referred to in your introduction, it's obviously a career that offers much variety. It offers the opportunity to live in different countries and immerse oneself in those cultures. So it really is an extraordinary life experience. And I'm delighted that that's the career I found myself in.
Could you tell us a little bit about your career trajectory and how you made the transition from the foreign services to independent research at a think tank?
So actually, let me start at the beginning. I completed my master's and actually started to research for a PhD and taught for a few years in Delhi University. That was not a big success. I was not a good teacher. I don't think my students liked me very much. So I was happy to transition to the Foreign Service. The next big transition from the Foreign Service to a think tank dealing with business and foreign policy was much easier, and in a way it was really a natural process. Because of course what we do in the Foreign Service is to learn a country. We learn everything we can about where we are assigned, as well as if when we are in Delhi we are dealing with the country. We learn its history, we learn its the regional setting, and we focus of course on India's relations with that country and all aspects of those relationships, whether they are political, cultural, an Indian diaspora, but everything is underpinned by the economic and commercial relationship that exists, and it is our job to build upon, as well as at the same time raising the level, adding to the political exchanges and responding to the needs of the Indian community, which we find and interact with in almost every country that I've dealt with. And I think that is the general experience of most other Indian diplomats as well. So transitioning to a research organization was sort of natural, in the sense that that is what I do even today, is to bring to bear on what is happening in India's relations with, say, the UK now, since our Prime Minister is visiting there, but everything I've learned in the course of my career. So I feel I'm today maybe doing the kind of work I did when I was a diplomat, but without the responsibilities of representing India on a global scale.
What were some of the challenges that you faced in starting your career? In particular, as a woman, was entry into the IFS difficult? And do you think anything has changed since then?
I would say that at the time that I joined the Foreign Service, and for anybody else looking at a career in diplomacy today as well, joining is not the challenge because it's an open exam and anybody can take it. And I'm happy to see that it's mostly girls who top the merit lists at the end of these exams. But once you're in, actually that is when your challenges start. And if I look back at the era when I joined, societal attitudes towards women were different. Families may not have evolved as much as young people have forced society to move on. So certainly a career in the Foreign Service was not what my family envisaged for me, not what they encouraged me in. But circumstances enable you to do something, and that's what happened for me. Having joined, I must say that the Foreign Service is one of those with the least actual obstacles and disabilities for women, other than what women face everywhere, which is a life-career balance, the pressures on women to always be the ones to sacrifice their careers for marriage, which I have to say I didn't do. I mean, I am married, I have a daughter, but my husband and I both made adjustments so that both of us sacrificed something in our career trajectories. But it wasn't the case that one of us had to give it up. But you do face that challenge anyway. Trying to decide how much time you're going to spend in the Ministry of External Affairs in Delhi, where you can go depending on where your child is in her own educational pursuit. So all of those things are important, but they're not necessarily so different than the challenges that my male counterparts faced. And this is more and more the case. As more and more women are highly educated, they are professionals, they want their own careers, and men and women both have to make those adjustments.
What would you say are the key professional and personal experiences that have shaped your career?
Well, like everybody else, I mean, I was happy to get married. I was even happier to have a child. We are very proud of our daughter, who is an academic and teaches political science. Those are, at the personal level, those are the big things, I think, which enter everybody's life. Yeah, I would say that in terms of a professional experience, I think that each country that you serve in has a very specific kind of challenge, as well as what you learn there. So my experiences in the United States, and I've served twice, were really quite unique, especially when I was at the embassy in Washington, where I was liaising with the US Congress, especially the Senate, on strategic issues. So you find yourself actually talking to a lot of foreign affairs aides. Many of those are real specialists, say, in nuclear issues, and sometimes know more than even we do, because we deal with a whole range of subjects. The US Congress is a world of its own. And at the time that I was dealing with it, 1992 onwards, it was a unique moment also in global history. The Soviet Union had just been dissolved. The United States unipolar moment had begun. There was a shift from a Republican presidency to a Democratic presidency. Clinton came in. Excuse me. He came in with a slew of scandals behind him, and then proved to be one of the most successful presidents that the United States has had. So it was really an exciting time to be in the United States, and Washington was the center of the globe. It may still be, but not in the same way as it was in the early 90s. In other positions that I held, serving in Africa, I was in West Africa, is really a whole experience which is sometimes difficult to describe, but if you don't serve in Africa, you miss out on so many challenges, and particularly as an Indian diplomat, we find so much commonality with Africa. We find that many of the problems that they grapple with, we have either grappled with in the past or are currently immersed in transitions to democratization, transitioning from agrarian economies to industrial economies, transitioning in a social sense, and for women, we are particularly sensitive to the fact that societies have to change. There's a lot of disabilities for women, both in a traditional society like India as well as in some of the African societies. So altogether, it's really exciting. On the other hand, I found being in Thailand very interesting, dealing with, at that time, the Cambodian question, the inception of ASEAN, which has been quite a successful regional political and economic organization. So each assignment, each bit of work that you do is actually both intellectually challenging and satisfying. And also for your family, these can be quite rich experiences.
What technical and soft skills would you say have been indispensable for being successful in your field?
Well, I think one of the things that really helps Indian diplomats is that we come to this assignment from a really rich civilizational background. But one must know that background. It's not enough to say we have a long history and a long civilization, and we have given birth in this civilization to many religions, etc. But we must know them. We must know how Buddhism evolved here, or all the inflection points in Hinduism, or the richness and sense of equality that the Sikh religion brings forth, the doctrines of Jainism, how Islam has become so integral to India, and how much Islamic influence there has been on our way of thinking, our languages, food, architecture. It has really enriched Indian cultures. So you have to know these things, and that, I think, gives, of course there are many rich civilizations, but I don't know that there are many which have been at the intersection of so many cultural and religious flows as India has been. So Indian diplomats start with a big advantage. Other than that, of course, is the sort of skill and maybe integrity that you need for every other job, which is to be yourself. Don't try and project anything that you're not, because then the interaction with whoever your interlocutor is false. So be yourself. Be as honest as you can in any of these interactions. I think that's what you need for pretty much any place and any profession that you find yourself in.
And lastly, do you have any advice that you would like to give students looking to work in the field of international relations and diplomacy?
Yes, I would love that they look to the Indian Foreign Service. For me, it was a highly satisfying career. It's becoming more and more challenging as the world becomes smaller and smaller in a globalization sense, but also more complex. The speed with which things happen is telescoped. So yes, join the Foreign Service. In case you don't, then of course you should go in for analytical aspects of international relations, working with think tanks, be an international relations journalist, but specialize. And of course, never forget that economics is more than 50% of a career in international relations.
Thank you so much for taking the time out to speak to us, Ambassador Deo. We really appreciate it. If you have any questions for the Ambassador or suggestions of who you would like to see interviewed, please comment below. Thank you.